week, we had our first Zoom Board of Ed meeting, and things went really well. I think it went real well, and the video was the video was posted for the public to view and to see, and then if there was anyone who had any comments, then they could make comments directly back to Jeff on the board. I assume that we received no comments from the first time we did that. So is that correct, Jeff?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. And I think what we're going to do is we are going to post, what we will be posting will be the audio part of this Zoom meeting going forward. So the video part won't be posted. Not that everybody wants to see us, but that's what Jeff and I discussed that and thought that was the best thing to do. So with that, we'll move on. We have the minutes from our March 30th meeting, which was there.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of our meeting of March 30th.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. Who's that at second?
Candace.
Candace. Thanks, Candace. Anybody have any corrections or modifications to those minutes? No? Okay. All right, seeing none, then I'll just go down the list. I got a list of the names and we'll just make sure we get everybody's vote. So Candace?
Aye.
Barry? Barry, are you there? There you are.
Mute. Okay, there you go. I unmuted it. Yes, I'm in.
Thanks, good. Lee, you all set?
Aye.
Jamie?
In.
Okay. John?
Aye.
Let's see, Bill, Kate?
Aye.
Oh, and Jill, are you there? I see your name. Okay, we didn't get a response. So, and then Eric?
Aye.
And Tim says aye. So we are all set with those minutes approved. We'll go on to special reports, and we're so glad to have both Paige and Grace on the line. We missed you. It's almost as good as having you here in being in person, but
close enough.
All the board members were very interested in hearing feedback from you folks. And also, we hope that you can stay on for some of the other items that we're going to be discussing, because they do affect things going on at the high school in particular. So, so with that, I don't know, Paige or Grace, who wants to talk first?
Well, I mean, I know everybody was dying to hear about it, so Grace, you can start your trip to Ireland. Is a big thing.
Oh yeah,
what that was.
So I went to Ireland for the Global Alcohol Policy Conference. So at this conference, like, I went with a few of the other YAB representatives from the United States, and then some international ones. We're all under like the DARE program. But we at this conference, there's a lot of different people from around the world, like from the World Health Organization and other companies like that, that are working like positively for like the health of the world. So it was about the alcohol like policies. So it was more about preventing like children from viewing alcohol advertisements and stuff like that, and the different impacts on the different parts of the world, and kind of all coming together for one meeting about like how we can move forward and make positive change for that. So it was interesting to hear from all the different people, but then it was also cool to be able to provide more like youthful experiences for their more perspectives for that. So it was really cool.
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, not much to report on. I think distance learning is going well for the most part. That's what I've heard, at least from my grade. I know we did polls out on our class pages, and I think it's going well for the most part. It's just a little bit of confusion in directions and stuff like that. But I think overall, Google Classroom is a good platform to stick to. From what I've heard, because I think that's the easiest, most familiar from everybody, like getting information in and out. So I think that that's a good job on our part for sure. The only question I had was, if we are continuing this, are we doing Zoom learning at all? Have we talked about that at all? I don't know if has been a
Great question.
Yeah, not yet, Paige. If you want to stay on the line, we're going to talk about that
yeah, no, absolutely.
in a
Okay.
little bit. But yep.
Perfect.
But yeah, no, not yet.
Okay.
And then-
Paige, just quick, Paige, and Grace, both of you know, any thoughts, especially with with graduation? That's when I know Mr. Susi was
that's a
reaching
big
out.
I had to.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Perfect.
I think that a lot of the students have felt like connected to, which is good because between what is going out to the parents and then also to the students from the parents and from the administration, everyone I think feels connected and like is part of this. So I think that's a positive aspect of it. And then I think that a lot of students are liking getting all the tasks on Friday and then having the whole week to complete them because they can work around like the student schedule, which is a positive. I think the only part that some students are struggling with is that they don't, more of like a lack of motivation because there's no grades right now. So I think that's something that even in like my AP classes, some students haven't been doing all of the tasks because of that. But I think that overall it's been like a smooth transition between schooling and online. So
I agree. For sure.
That's good to hear, girls.
Yeah. Definitely good. Not too much chaos for given the situation. I think that we handled it the best transition wise for sure.
Any questions from board members or anybody who's on the line for Paige and Grace? Ready? Jamie?
Grace, when we get back to going, can
yeah.
I have you come to the Youth Coalition meeting and share out what you learned at the conference?
Yeah,
That
sure.
would be really helpful for all of us.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Grace. I mean, I'll
Yeah.
have questions when we get going about the things that we're going to talk about tonight from the girls, but that's the only question I have for right now.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay. Do you have, Grace or Paige, do you have any, I can't remember if anybody's got little brothers and sisters. So, do you have any feedback from the other grades?
Yeah, I have one, he's a sophomore, and then I also have a sister who's in 6th right now. So yeah. I've heard good things from their level too. I think, well, Patrick's up in high school too, so he's pretty much the same as me. But I think Peyton is good. It's good what we're sending out, like Grace said, to the parents and the students, because I think it's like well understood on both like that levels. Because like my mom is like able to help her a lot, given the directions that she like gets to. So I think that that's a good way of helping out kids that can be easily confused. So. Yeah.
Kate, did you want to say something?
Not yet. I'm just listening. I'm good,
Oh.
thanks.
Okay. All right. Great. Okay. And all right. Well, good. Well, I mean, again, thanks for joining us, and it's good to hear the positive feedback during a very strange time period. This is very weird when you get right down to it. So, okay. So let's move forward then. And we have the discussion action items. We have the first one that's up is an update on our remote continuing educational opportunities for all students. Jeff, Amy, and how are you going to handle it?
Yeah, we've got Kim on the line as well, so we can kind of keep with that special ed perspective as well. First and foremost, I just got a text because Chris Lund, he's covering for us. There's a governor's conference call going on right now, started at 5 o'clock. So he just heard that within the next 2 days, a new announcement will be made as it pertains to the school year on how, when potentially the new date is going to be, or if they're closing for the rest of the year. So we'll know that in the next 2 days, which is good because we've been waiting for that. So that was good to hear. So with that being said, yeah, the parent survey had gone out last week. It closed as of today at noontime. So we're in the process of gathering up information from parents, and the crutch of that was to kind of get feedback on, okay, it's been a week and a half. How's the process going so far? And we're diving into that data and going to be analyzing it over the next couple of days. So I think maybe by Friday, hopefully by Friday, we'll have kind of an analysis and we can put it in the weekly update to let everybody know kind of where, where the feedback is. Just so, a high level glance, it is kind of all over the place. You got people that are absolutely loving the way that this is flexible and it's working. And you've got a couple other people that are coming out and just saying, you know what, not enough, we need more right now. So that started to come out the end of last week too. Hadn't really heard much at all the beginning of last week. And then when we put the notice out about April vacation, that's when I got a couple emails from parents regarding April vacation, as well as, looking for, the next level of, we want to chat, we want online, chatting going on, as soon as possible, sort of thing, in online classrooms. And we know that that's of concern, with us. Under the advisement of, we're starting with special education under the advisement of our legal team, Shipman and Goodwin and Jessica Ritter. It's really, take it slow, be careful of FERPA violations. So, and that's where we're at. We're kind of looking at this as a methodical, slow process. But as of right now, and I'll let Kim and Amy jump in because it's more around the line of special education, we're ramping up to start, some online intervention work with special education teachers and students. Kim, I don't know, you want to give a quick update as to where that's at and what the teachers are working on this week, and then where we're starting that right when we get back after vacation?
Sure. So I have special education and related service providers getting PD this week around using, for the speech language pathologist, we have subscribed to a platform called Amplio Speech that it provides a video conferencing platform for online speech and language therapy. And it comes with training and a help desk, resources for scheduling, activities that students can do online for practicing their skills that they're learning in their session, and some progress monitoring support tools. So they started their PD actually last week with that. And then the other related services like OT, PT, social work, school psychology are working on Google tools for like Google Hangout, Google Meet for as options for providing some online interface with students. So their work this week is around PD and conversations with parents around what families feel they'd like to focus on, or whether they'd like to just continue with the CEOs as they've been released. We're also asking special ed teachers and all teachers to consider pre-recorded videos that include them modeling maybe a short segment of a lesson that students could come back to, or parents could come back to if they wanted to watch that again at another time. So we're beginning to increase those opportunities, knowing that we're probably going to be out a little longer than we'd really like to be.
Thanks, Kim. And Amy, from the standpoint of the work that you've been doing with the CILs, as well as the team leaders and the work with teachers, you want to give a quick update on some of the work that they're engaging in this week?
Sure. So hot off the press, a parent letter went out about 25 minutes ago through Infinite Campus. We are in the middle, believe it or not, of only cycle 2. We haven't even lived through 2 complete cycles of educational opportunities, and already we're looking at efficiencies and ways to respond. So in the parent letter, I basically communicated the things that we're evolving in, which is really we're beginning to integrate new learning. So in the educational opportunities that go out either Thursday or Friday, and I'm saying that because of Good Friday, we're allowing teachers that choice. If you want to release on Thursday because you celebrate Good Friday and things of that nature, you may. If you'd like to release on Friday morning, that's okay too. We want to respect people and their time off. But within that, one of the things that we're releasing is that as of Friday, new learning can now be part of the educational opportunities. So not only are we looking for skill development, but we might be looking for new learning integration, which could come in the form of pre-recorded sessions with teachers where they're posting some new learning opportunities, as well as some engagement tasks that are around new learning topics. The other things that we put in there is this week, we also have professional learning. When we say pre-recorded, we have district software that we actually have license to. So we use Flipgrid and Wakelet and Nearpod are 3 district options that we have for teachers to be able to record themselves and then be able to post that are all in compliance with Connecticut data privacy. And we feel comfortable with teachers using, and we know for sure that they can all run and be recorded on their district provided 2-in-1 device. So we're hoping that will decrease the use of personal devices and or phones in order to have that occur. And then the other piece of it for us is that we wanted to address, and it's something that we've been talking about as far as a platform. We did not want new learning to be part of our rollout from the get-go for families. We wanted families just, nope, let's just keep communicating with them in ways that we've been communicating with them and keep it consistent. But we also are at a place where, as we look at it, we need to think about efficiencies for parents. And one of the things we're hearing is lots of emails, lots of places that I'm looking for information at the moment. So in order to respond to that, what we've done is we moved our Google Classroom down to 5th grade. So now what means is that all of our 5th to 12th grade students will be in Google Classroom. 70% of our middle school teachers were in Google Classroom already. So again, we're trying to go after those things where not as much of a learning curve, but still there is, you know. And then what we're going to do is we're actually giving, and Barry, you had mentioned this at the last board meeting as well, we are actually giving all of our middle school parents guardian rights, so that parents will be able to see the assignments and the summary of assignments for their child, so that they could be part of that. And that's what's different from the middle school experience and the high school experience, is that all parents will get the guardian rights, whereas at the high school, it's students, and then they only gain guardian rights for individual plans because we want that independence. So we really felt that that was important. And then if we go down to the pre-K to 4, we are actually implementing Seesaw as an app and a platform for our pre-K to 4 parents, hoping that that will be a sort of central hub. So no more Infinite Campus, multiple emails. You will now have a centralized hub after this week where you can go and in Seesaw for pre-K to 4, both the parent and student are in it. So see how like our progression is pre-K to 4, Seesaw, both parent and student are in it. Middle school 5 to 8, students in it, parents in it, but parents only in it from a assignment purview. They're not actually in the class. We still want that independence. And then as they go into middle school, students really in it, and parents is only in it with individual plan. It's an accommodation or modification, if you will, because independence is obviously always our target. So those are big things for us. There's PD, like I said, on the platforms for pre-recording this week, as well as setup. We are turning this around in multiple days with our staff, but at the same time, we have enough practitioners using these tools that between the instructional text administration and we really feel like these were things that we could do and efficiencies we could make pretty immediately at the end of this second cycle to help families out with some central hubs. So that's sort of where we are entering into cycle 3 at the end of this week.
Just 2 other pieces with that too. Amy was able to get Seesaw for the rest of the year for free, a district license, which was great. Some teachers already had it, individually, but now we've got a district license for free, which was awesome on Seesaw. You don't really hear that ever. I think they charge us an arm and a leg, but it was free, which is great. And then, we're also gauging, and this has been some work. We had a conference call with Scott earlier today at noontime to kind of gauge, okay, what's he hearing for information? There's some teachers that are struggling with the amount of work. One had emailed us end of last week that, saying I'm working, like 14-hour days and I'm struggling getting through this and trying to balance, the kids that are climbing on my back at home too. So that's been, I think, a challenge. So Scott's done a good job, I think, of trying to capture some of that information, and we're trying to keep in contact with him to see, okay, where can we maybe provide some more support as necessary. So, that's kind of where we're at in a nutshell. Go ahead, Amy.
We also updated the website.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so go check.
That was many a nights last week. That was not nothing. We also updated the website so that parents could more readily see the resources on the homepage, and it'd be better organized for parents. So we also did that as well. So That's it. Sorry.
So that's where we're at kind of in a nutshell right now. Again, the survey results, we'll push those out. We're going to post them on the website Wednesday for parents and everybody to see. So you can take a look there. We'll also put, try and get a more deeper dive, for you in Friday's update to share a little bit more information out, so you can kind of see what the results were. But again, a little bit all over the place. Majority, I think, across the board at a high level are liking the way that it's been rolled out, and the flexibility has been essential because of their schedules at home. And I had heard from one parent I read in there, look, I'm a teacher, my husband's a teacher, we've got 5 kids, we're all trying to balance out, working and doing what we're supposed to do, and then as well trying to help their own kids out. So the flexibility has been great for a family like that. So it varies. But any questions or thoughts?
Eric?
Thanks, everyone, for the update. That's really helpful. And actually, some of the things you're saying is consistent with what I've heard just in the emails or phone calls I've heard, which is, generally good, but a little on the inconsistent side. So my question is, I guess, twofold. One, what are we doing? Like, I'm sure we're starting to learn some best practices. And what are we doing for teachers to share those best practices with other teachers of how to make this work? And then 2, it's how are we ensuring some consistency of the level of workload? Because I have heard where some feel like, hey, the workload's great. It's about 2 hours a day. They sit down, they really do the work. And then I have others who said, I get it on whatever Thursday, and my kids just crank through it on Thursday, and then they have nothing till next Thursday. So, having that, how do we make sure that there's some balance across teachers and everything? So those are my 2 questions. But I think generally, for what we've had to do, I think it's great that we're at least where we are. So I don't want to, it's just kind of how do we go from here?
So I can answer that. So one of the things that we expect the principals to do is they need to be holding either once or twice a week, weekly teacher leadership meetings. So at the high school, for example, Mike has to meet with his department heads twice a week. Jason's meeting with his team leaders, and then so on at the elementaries. And one of the things that we started this week in particular after last week, we always had the expectation that every Friday they are doing random audits as to what teachers are posting. So they are randomly auditing and randomly pulling. One of the things I had them do last week was I had them pull 2 highs, 2 mediums, and 2 lows, so that I could see sort of, are we calibrated with sort of what's out there. In this week's meetings, what we had them do is I had them pull 3 exemplars and use those 3 exemplars to go through at the department and teacher leader meetings. So we're almost running like a calibration activity. And then we invite those 3 teachers to the meeting to explain how they developed it, what their thought process is, so that other colleagues can ask them questions. So that's basically how I've run sort of calibration with them so far.
I think there's been quite a bit of colleague to colleague work that's gone on too. I mean, some are much more adept at utilizing, making videos of themselves and so forth, and others are not necessarily. From what I've heard too, there's a lot of that going on, a lot of back and forth and sharing, okay, help me with this. They're helping each other out. So that's been this is a time of need and a time of helping each other. This is it.
Other questions? I see Barry's got his hand up.
Unmute here. Thanks again, Amy and Jeff, for the update on that. It's very thorough and very helpful to hear the broad perspective of everything that's going on. I have 2 quick things. First, I applaud your decision to open up the Guardian option for the middle school. I think that's going to be very great. I'm also going to put a plug in to extend that to the high school. Now, here's my thinking on that. I understand you made a reference to independence. Many ways to come at this, but personal experience. When I dealt with PhD students, they took 45 credits in classroom work, and 80 to 90% of the PhD students completed that. When they moved from the classroom into doing their dissertations, which was basically a move from a very structured environment to a very independent environment, we lost 50 to 60% of the students simply because they were not used to moving into an unstructured environment. Now, what is happening when we're moving the kids from, and if you remember when I spoke earlier about the work that I had done at the middle school and asking students about the difference between being good students and good learners, 75 to 80% of those students said, I'm a good learner when I listen, pay attention, study, take notes, take the test, and do what the teacher told me. We only had about 15% of those students that said they took initiative and basically advanced their own learning. So those students are now up in the high school, and the environment that they were in the classroom is one where they go in, the teacher tells them what to do, here's the classroom, and if they kind of struggle with it, they have ready access to teachers to talk with and whatever. We're turning them over into an independent environment. And without providing a support structure, as many support structures as we can, they're going to struggle with it. And I really think the guardian option for the high school would be an excellent option to have for the high school students and for the parents. And again, we have 75% of the students in our system are falling below, kind of the marker point we get for what we expect for performance on the SBAC. And also, I'm very concerned with the students that have 405 designations or 504 designations who are not having an option for an IEP. They could also struggle in there. So it's an easy thing to do, to provide the guardian option. And I strongly encourage you to rethink that and to allow it for parents in the high school arena. So that's one point that I had. The second point, with the letter that you sent out, Amy, to parents, talked about multiple opportunities for engagement. The feedback I've been getting from parents is that while that is kind of a tagline, the teachers are coming out with singular opportunities for engagement. Basically, when they're coming with their online activities, it's like, here's something that I would like you to, here's the learning task we have, and here's kind of like one way to do it. There's a single opportunity for engagement. And if when you work with the teachers this week through the process, if you could continually push that idea that if there is something that the teachers want the kids to explore as a learning activity, that the objective that they have, the thing they want to learn, that the teachers can plan in multiple options for engagement to get to that learning end. Those are the two things I have.
Thank you, Barry. I appreciate it.
Any comments about the guardian access at the high school level, Amy or Jeff or Grace or Paige?
Yeah. Well, let's let Grace or Paige. Grace or Paige, any
yeah, I think Grace, you can go, or doesn't matter. I can go first. I think, what I had said this earlier, but I think that the emails that we're sending out to parents and students are very similar and information wise. So I think that helps a lot with having parents involved in the learning process. Definitely at the middle school level, I have a younger sister, so I've definitely witnessed that. I think at the high school level, it's pretty independent when it comes to checking Google Classroom, as much as your parents sort of being on you about that, just because we've had it before, so we're so used to already using that. So I think that that's definitely a smooth transition at the high school level, at least. I'm not sure about like elementary school or not, but definitely from what I've seen.
Yeah, I also think that a lot of kids have Google Classroom on their phones. So a lot of times they'll just like pop up on their phone, which makes it a little bit easier for you to be able to see and for them to be able to see like what they need to do. But also on the other hand, having your parents being involved in Google Classroom might help some of the students who are struggling with the motivation to do some of the work without grades. So I can see both sides of it. I'm not really sure which one would be the best right now.
And that's a good point, especially as it comes to those students that are struggling. Like our students might have IEPs, or students that are have 504s. I look at this as an evolving process. That's for sure. I think we got to continue to gauge day by day, week by week, to see, okay, maybe for some it needs to be opened up a little bit more. But I think that's a cautious tread, or we have tread lightly as it pertains to that, and not fully just flipping the switch.
Jamie had her hand up, and then Barry wants to get something in.
I'm going to agree with giving the parents the access to the high school, only because I'm finding my high schooler is unmotivated, and I'm, as Grace and Paige said, that some of the high schools are also unmotivated
Yeah, definitely.
they're not getting graded right now. So it's, why do I have to do this if I'm not getting a grade on it?
Right.
And it's me having access to it is how I'm going, okay, well, you didn't do this, you haven't done this, I just need you to do this because I need you to keep learning and I need you to keep your skills refreshed.
I think that's the
really
biggest part of lack of participation, is just the grading confusion. Kids have no idea what they're doing. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's like you said, like, why am I doing this if I'm not getting a grade? That's just the biggest question. I think probably why we don't have like 100% is because the grades.
Right.
Hopefully we'll have an answer on that soon this week, on
Hopefully.
grading, as to what the state is going to provide a recommendation. We've
Okay.
told them they need to let us know now,
Right.
because we need to evolve and make a decision as to what it is that we're going to do. Are we going to try and
Right,
move
and
towards grading?
My second thing was going to be that I agree also with giving the access to middle school for the same reasons, so that we can keep on them and know what they're doing. And I'm in agreement of going from the Infinite Campus over to the Google Classrooms at the middle school, because it's hard. You can't turn in assignments on the Infinite Campus. You're emailing them back and forth, and it just becomes very muddled. But our teacher has been using the Seesaw all year, and we've loved that app. And she sent us the link the other day to do the interactive part of it. We got it Friday, so we were playing with it today, trying to figure out how to use it, and we were able to submit stuff to her, which was really cool. And she sent a video to Charlie on Friday telling her happy birthday. So it was nice that there's that secondary aspect, because the kids are missing their teachers. And I know my daughter and both my son are getting little videos from their teachers every day, like with a little like, hey, this is a riddle or something's cute, just to say hi and just to check in and make sure the kids are doing well. And it really is something nice that keeps the kids, hey, that's my teacher,
Mr. Mahon's on it with the videos. I see him. No, I definitely agree. That's a definitely good encouragement wise.
It is. Miss Bebahani sends a little math riddle every day or a little math joke every day. So it's keeping them kind of like in the loop, and it's keeping their contact up to date. And it's kind of what we all need. They all need to contact each other in some way.
Good. Very good. Barry, you want to get something in?
Again, just two quick things. Am I muted?
No.
No, now you're muted, Barry.
Okay. Now you can hear me.
Yep.
Yes.
Just a quick, just make sure that it's clear that the guardian option does not put the parent in the classroom. It is simply an informative thing about what are the assignments and what progress is being made. So it's not an intrusive option. It's an informational option for parents. And second, on that, just dropping back to the research, when the term motivation is used in a lot of the discussions, there are many researchers that will play off the difference between the term unmotivated and uninterested. And that gets me back to the point of the multiple formats of points of engagement. That if we can there's many options using internet-based learning options where we can basically ramp up the interest. And I think that the more options we can provide for engagement for the students, and when teachers are working back and forth on this, you talked about the exemplary options, Amy. I think that we find that the exemplary options are ones that move towards the continuum of increased interest on the part of students.
Good. Any other comments from anybody? Okay, good. Amy, the question I had was, how was the response to the survey this time around?
We had 1,172 families.
Wow,
What percentage is that?
that's pretty good. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yep. So we got a good response rate. We got yeah, I do have to say, I mean, like I had 100 responses in about 3 minutes. This is the quickest turnaround I've ever seen for a response.
Wow.
But I mean, I think we hit the nail on the head as far as you're probably going to notice a survey probably going out from us about every other week to just continue to have parents feel involved and heard and continue to give us feedback.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we all set on that item? Everybody good? Okay, let's move on to the next one is grading and assessment. Jeff?
Yeah, and we put this on here in hopes maybe that we would have gotten some further guidance, from the state between when we made the agenda last week and tonight, but nothing else has come forth. Hopefully, maybe by tomorrow or Wednesday. But this is a question right now we don't have an answer for. If we don't get something soon, we're going to have to start thinking about what we want to do. I know in our discussions administratively, there are some concerns regarding inequity and providing equity to ensure if we're going to start requiring grades for things, do all kids have the same level of access and support that at home being by themselves? And, yes, they can communicate, with their teachers, whether it be by email or videos or, phone calls. But it's not necessarily the same as being next to them in a classroom too. So that is of a concern. Some students are going to have the parents sitting right next to them too and supporting and helping them with the work. Others are not. So that's what we're trying to gauge. But I really would hope that we'll have some guidance. And if anything, my mind kind of goes to project-based, standards-based assessment, project-oriented work, something along those lines. So we hopefully, within the next week, we'll have, or in the next couple of days, we'll have some more clear-cut guidance.
Yeah, we had I heard some discussion at the Learn Executive Committee meeting, and Kate Erickson, the head of Learn, said that they were hoping that on April 10th that we would hear the guidance from the commissioner, and the consensus around the table on that discussion was it would be great if the entire state of Connecticut could do the same thing, even though it may not be what we can perceive as perfect for us. If we all do it the same way, it's just going to make it much clearer. But the sense is that what we'll probably get from the commissioner is here are some recommendations for your consideration. We kind of favor this one, but these other ones work well too. And they're going to push it out to all 150 of our districts to customize it. But I hope that they come out with a much more firm stance and say this is the way you're going to do it, so that everybody's the same for this last period.
Well, that's what we're all hoping.
Okay.
Eric.
Yes, one question, 1 point. So in terms of what we expect, are we expecting some type of grading guidance only for the last kind of period, last 3-4 months or whatever it is? Or is it kind of an overall guidance? Because there are some grades for the first half of the year, and how will that be taken into account? So that's one question. And my other question, or my comment, is, I can't remember if it was Paige or Grace or both, but they talked about, maybe some students not being as motivated because you don't know about grades and stuff. So my point from last week was around pass-fail, and I really worry about pass-fail, and my guess is that's the easiest answer. If you want consistency across Connecticut, or you want it's go pass-fail. That's easy. That's what a lot of universities are at least offering, a pass-fail option. I worry that students are going to say, I'll take the pass fail, fantastic. All I need is to get in the 60s or whatever, and I pass. And same with that same other person who worked really hard and got in the 90s or whatever. I don't have a solution for something in between. And I think it's probably more impactful on the high school than on middle school and elementary, because that we can work on. It doesn't necessarily go anywhere. High school, it's going to be part of your transcript that goes on potentially if you go on to college. So I don't have an answer, but I do fear pass fail is that I don't think, for me, that's not the solution. I don't have a better one other than obviously all grades, but so I had just those 2 points. Thank you.
I think you're right, Eric. A lot will be driven by post-secondary or colleges as to what their expectations will be, and what we present or push forward for grades, and everything that happened prior to March 13th. So the work that kids did, and even after March 13th, kids were encouraged to submit their work that wasn't done yet or completed, handed it, and all those things were graded. So everything was graded up until that March 13th point. So how we kind of meld these two together now is the next question. For if it goes to pass fail, how we could take the previous quarters. I'm thinking high school of work and kind of meld the two together.
Yeah.
So,
Kate.
Well, I think that we can look at things, even if it's pass fail. I think we can look at things as far as the quality of the performance, the quality of the project. How are students attending? It sounds like some students aren't really attending per se. And then what is the appearance of the work that they're performing, and how motivated do they seem? So even if you're pass fail, you can still be judged according to the effort. And then the teachers already know the students, so they've already got that advantage. It's not like it's a new learning or new year. So I think that students need to know that life is kind of always graded, that you're always being to some extent judged by your performance, by your attendance, by your attitude, by who you are and how you present yourself. And this is a prime example of a life test, and that's how you're going to be judged basically down the road. And kids need to know that. They need to know that they're going to take it upon themselves to some extent. But I think you can gradate some of the things out that you can judge things on. And even though it's pass fail, teachers are going to have a real clear idea for who's really putting effort forth and working and extending their learning, and who's really slacking and not doing it. And in the end, they're really only hurting themselves. And there's only so much, especially at this time, that anybody can do. So that's my opinion.
Okay. Anybody else? Jamie, you got your hand up.
So, and I don't really know how I feel about it, only because, like we've talked about a little bit earlier, is that some of the teachers are giving hard work, medium work, and easy work. So if you're having a teacher who's only giving easy, busy work, and the student passes, that's, they're going to pass. But if you have one teacher who's giving really hard work and the kid is struggling with it and they don't pass, then what does that say to the kid whose literally assignment was to watch a movie about World War II? No follow-up questions, no nothing, just watch a movie. How do you grade watching a movie with no follow-up questions versus the kid who has to write a paper about a movie about World War II? How do you grade those two different assignments when there's no follow-up? So depending on what the teacher is assigning, how educational is the concept of pass and fail? I mean, you'd have to have the equity in the teaching in order for the grade to be equitable, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. That's why that's what Amy told us earlier about how they're trying to get some sense of standardization, I guess, in terms of what's going out, So it's
and I know that we're working on a standard, but until we get a standard, I mean, we have to have the standard in place before we can actually have a grading system in place.
Yeah.
I mean, because watching a movie and that's it is really not an assignment because there's no follow-up. I mean,
No.
there's no questions. What'd you learn? What was it about? Just
Well,
watch a movie.
right. And one of the things I think that I just am working with a couple, especially high school and middle school teachers that we're seeing is that, so the teacher that had a planned educational opportunity to release this week had to backtrack a little bit because she started losing engagement of some of her students because of different things within the home. And so had to reset sort of what some of the opportunities were going to be. So I also know that that's one of the things that the teachers are trying to juggle is I sort of created this menu of options for my students, but now I'm sort of changing them because in checking in on them, whether it be through messaging or through Google Chat or whatever, I'm realizing that these kids need a little bit more of some other stuff before I go ahead and raise the bar of a little bit more intensive task. So that's been an interesting thing for teachers to juggle too. And how do you grade that? Because, right, she's trying to follow the students and what the students and parents are talking to her about, but now she's just de-standardized, particularly from her leveled colleagues, because she's differentiating based on what she's hearing for them. It's an interesting dynamic for sure.
Barry, I saw you had your hand up.
Yes, I did. There's a long discussion I could go on about grading, but to try to put it simply, there's one line of the research on that said grades are perhaps one of the worst things we've ever done in education. And also because many times grades represent more a statement about a teacher than they do about the student. So on that, I've had a lot of experience working with pass-fail options. And if you can if you put that in the context that ideally what we want to do is to have students develop the capability to self-assess themselves within the framework of certain standards. And the work that I've done on this, I found that if we can give students teachers and students both, let's just use for simplicity a word like a rubric, and that the students and the teacher both, the student, whenever they do a task, has to self-assess themselves against the rubric and hands that in and compares that with the teacher's assessment. Initially, there's a discordance between the two because the students and the teachers don't match, but through multiple cycles, we've found that the students develop ability to self-assess themselves against a set of standards that is coincident with how the teachers are assessing. And one of the problems that students have with the assessment issue under the most practice is because it's a mystery to them as to I don't really understand how this grade is coming up. I mean, the teacher wants this thing done, I'll do it, and hey, this is great, I got it, and let's move on to the next task. But if you can move this experiment we're in right now is a great opportunity to help students be able to internalize the standards of performance that they can use to self-assess themselves. And if they could self-assess themselves within a pass-fail framework, it'd be a great way to move them forward with this, developing the ability for agency themselves as learners.
Barry, to add to that, maybe some of our more unmotivated students, if we can focus more on that project side of things, that is engaging them, and trying to complete work. A lot of districts I'm hearing different excuses because they're saying, oh, I can't get on the internet today, so I'm not doing my work, or my device doesn't work, it's broken, sort of thing. So we're going to hear all the excuses in the world, but the more we can engage them with interesting project-based work or thematic-based approach of some sort, I think we might capture more kids. The ones that are highly motivated are going to be highly motivated. They're going to get the work done. It's those kids that aren't necessarily motivated to want to do it. We got to capture.
So one thing I would like to add in is that some of our teachers of B-level courses, some of the lower level courses, have been reporting back to me that they have higher levels of engagement right now than they do during when the students and teachers are in the classroom. So because they are in a virtual experience, they're not, some of the feedback they've tried to elicit from students is, I have a little bit of autonomy here. I'm in this space and I'm posting and chatting, But our teachers right now, and I'm seeing it in Infinite Campus, if they do not see that child in Google Classroom, at least at the high school, on Monday and Wednesday, that student is getting a targeted message from either the parent or to the student saying, hey, I haven't seen you. I haven't seen you on there since Monday, since Tuesday. I mean, they are pulling them in, but that's sort of something that we just noticed over the last couple, probably like 6 days. I had a department call, and that's one of the things we noticed was, wow, some of our lower level kids are really showing up in this dynamic, and that's some good food for thought for future. But that's a good thing for us to see right now.
Lee?
Yeah, I just think to build off what Amy just said, I appreciate you saying that because I'm getting a little bit of a weird feeling about labeling students as like motivated and unmotivated. I think like the spirit behind thinking through new ways to engage our learners in this unprecedented time and new territory is where we should be like focusing most of our energy. Yeah, I don't love the labeling of motivated and unmotivated. I think all of our learners, like it's our job to figure out how to reach all of them.
Good. Okay, all right, so good discussion. John, you had your hand up.
So just on the governor side and the EO side, so it'll be strong recommendations, like you said, Tim, with some standards. So that's what I'm hearing. But
okay.
The uniformity across every district having to do, X, Y, and Z, it probably won't be that. So.
Yeah.
Thanks, John. That's what we figured.
It's like 48 to 72 hours on that one. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Ready to move on? The next item up for discussion and action is the last day of school for the school year 2019-2020. Jeff?
Yeah, so when we talked about this at our last meeting, I think in keeping spirit with trying to maintain the same basic, if this never happened, this was basically the schedule of the year. June 19th, would be the day that we'd bring forth to the board to say, hey, let's make graduation, that night, and then move forward. As we've said a couple times, the 180 days is waived, it's gone. There's no, we don't have to meet it. That sits us right around that 180-day mark, and that's the spirit from the commissioner that he wants you to, when this took place, everything before that stays in play, and try and come as close to that 180 days as possible. So that puts us right around that 180-day mark. So it seemed like everybody was pretty much in favor of that, and I didn't hear any other response or feedback from anybody between that meeting and and tonight. So that would be my recommendation. Our recommendation to be able to put June 19th. Also, if we do get back into school, I've been in contact with the chair of the senior grad committee. And that date, June 19th, is the scheduled date for the grad party. So they wouldn't have to go moving that if we can, if we can get back into session, it's ready to go.
Yeah, I just had a quick question about that being a senior. So, yeah, I just had a question of graduation. Obviously, I think you sort of just explained that, but so June 19th is the day that we technically would graduate, no matter if we're in school or not. Is that what I'm hearing? Just so I'm.
That's exactly what we're deciding on right now.
Okay.
Paige, yep.
Okay, perfect. That's good to know.
Okay, everybody, I don't see anybody jumping up and down, raising their hands. So anybody want to make a motion on this one?
I would like to make a motion to set the last day of school as Friday, June 19th, 2020.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a second on it. Any other discussion? Just the one thing, I did do some comparison with some of our other districts, and the 19th seems to be one of the more favorite days. That's popping up across some of the other districts that are close to us. So I think it's very appropriate.
Yeah, okay. We did the same. Yep. I know Waterford's June 19th. Others are right around the same.
Yeah, I think New London is Monday, and I think Groton is the 19th as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we all set? Candace?
Aye.
Barry?
Aye.
Okay, good. Lee?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And Tim is an aye too. So we're all set with that, and that will be communicated out, Jeff, to
Yeah, I'll start with staff and then communicate that out to parents as well. And I'll be in touch with Janine, who's the chair for the senior grad committee.
yeah. Good. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. The
And Paige will post something on our Instagram account so everybody knows, all the seniors know.
Yeah.
Not yet. I will wait. All of the parents, they like to be.
that's open information.
It's
Okay,
official, so go ahead and post it, Paige.
It is official. Yeah, you can. Yeah,
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 it's public.
Yeah, yeah.
You can help me
So-
out, Paige.
Yep. Get the good message out. Okay, the next item, or the last item up, is for discussion, and just has to do with ideas around the graduation of the seniors for 2020 and during this kind of funny, weird time. So Jeff, do you have any?
Well, let me just start by saying that, the high school is in motion in preparing for, booking, the sound system, et cetera, for the graduation. And they have to, because they got to start rolling with some of those things to make sure they don't lose out on, on different, equipment, renting of the chairs, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll keep that going. What we'll be telling too is if we find out within, 24, 48 hours, if, the school year is done, then we need to kind of take a different tact and say, okay, maybe is there something we should be doing or could do for kids over the summer? I think it'd be very difficult to get into the fall, pending, if colleges reopen or if kids, disappear. How we get kids, a diploma, the decision, do we give it to them, earlier? We've gotten some good ideas from some of you, about maybe trying to do, if we are out for the rest of the year, trying to maybe do a video of each child coming to the school to, to get their diploma, or, there's a lot of different things I think we'll have to, and we'll want kids involved with that as well, that'll be an important piece. This is supposed to be their time, and what could we feasibly do that's safe and would work well for all of them. So that's where we're at with with graduation. Mike Susi, as I mentioned, is in touch with the class president and talking with seniors to get feedback from them. That's really a directive too from the governor, that please go out and and talk with your students. He's been talking with seniors from different schools as well. So he's taken that all into consideration, which is a good thing. I'm glad he's doing that. So
Yeah,
that's
I can speak because I'm on Senate for our senior class, and Mr. Susi is doing a really good job, like working with us communication wise of brainstorming ideas, because I know that that's obviously, aside from sports or whatever, not being in school, graduation is ultimately, I think, the biggest thing that seniors are most worried about. And I know that we don't have the answers yet, just because we don't have answers from if we're going back to school or not. But I think just communication, just keeping everybody in the loop of, look, like what we talk about in these meetings, just like giving that out to parents and students, I think is definitely something good to ease worries, just because there's a lot of miscommunication on what's going on. I know a bunch of people are confused. So
yeah, thanks, Paige. And that'll be the first, as soon as we get that information, hopefully by Wednesday, of what the next day for school is. We got to kick that out to, I'm sure it'll be all over the news too, so parents, people will hear it, but we want to be clear with that.
Good. Okay.
Eric's
got his hand up.
So just a few thoughts as you start to consider, maybe Paige, this is for you and your team. I mean, some things that if we end up with some type of virtual graduation, I think it's important that we do still have speeches. And ultimately, if there's a video keepsake of everything, that's kind of a nice thing to have anyway, that may be semi-professionally done. So I think that would be good. But I think speeches are important, that we at least, superintendent, principal, good, but really important that the students get their speeches out. So I think that for me is really important. The other thing to think about, which I don't have an answer, is we have the awards night, and then we also have the scholarships that Miss Hardy and Miss Singer lead each year. And like I don't know. We have to do something for that as well. I don't know. Again, I have no answers, and you guys are really good with technology and thinking and brainstorming, so it's great to think about it. But there's some way that those are things that I think are really important that somehow we can highlight throughout. So those are just some thoughts to consider as you think through this.
Good. Good.
Thank you, Eric. Yeah, all good thoughts. Absolutely. There's a lot that we got to process through, and I think the kids need to be leading the charge with that. And you know, we kind of follow their lead and just keep it safe and try and do everything we possibly can for them.
Jamie?
So I know it's not as important as senior graduation, but I know that a lot of 8th grade parents and 4th grade parents are also thinking what's happening for their students. Because it is a big day for them too. And that crossover to 4th grade into the middle school and the middle school to the high school, those are all big deals too. And I mean, I know that I got my packet in the mail the other day, and I'm sure those of you who have kids in the schools, you guys got your packet to pick your classes for next year. And it's kind of tough when you are doing it kind of blind and your kid hasn't really spoken to anybody, like, what electives do I want? Like my 8th grader, she's like, I have no idea. It's tough trying to help them figure out what they're going to do when they really don't know what the options are. I mean, we're struggling here trying to help them, and I know it's not due till the end of the school year, but it is something that the kids are struggling with, because I know they want their 8th grade dance and they want their yearbook the same as the high schoolers want. They want their yearbook and they want to sign it with all their friends. And it's kind of like that little before you take the next level thing. So I know all the kids are wondering it, and the parents are wondering too, not just about the high school, the middle school and elementary school kids are worrying, and the parents are wondering too. So when we're thinking about the high school kids, if we can also think about those middle school parents and those elementary parents too.
Good point, Jamie. Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Tough. Yeah, pretty tough. That's it for discussion action items for this evening. We do have administration reports. Jeff, you want to say some words?
Yeah. Wanted to just talk, Eric's gonna, and if Jill and John's on, I don't see Jill right now, but they can give a report out regarding the FFO committee meeting. But as it pertains to budget, Tim mentioned at the start of the meeting, we did have a Zoom session with Camille and Mark this morning, and Mariana and Anna were on the call, as well as Tim. And we walked through the timeline of the budget process. So just to kind of give you a snapshot of that, and we'll put a little bit more together. This coming Wednesday, there's going to be kind of a Board of Finance meeting. We're just going to kind of give an overview of the Executive Order 7R that talks about, our need to be paying and keeping all of our staff, almost all of our staff outside of the revenue people, paid. We don't want the perception out there that, and I don't think it is from what Camille said, but the perception that, people are sitting home and not working, and, we're going to save all this money. We have to pay them. And we're not going to, have a ton of savings at the end of the year. So that was going around the state, that there'd be huge savings that districts would have. Not the case. So we'll kind of talk about that process. Then on May 7th is going to be the Board of Ed's modified presentation back, to the Board of Finance. So May 7th would be the date. The parameters of that are still forthcoming, but these are just the dates. And we'll figure out exactly what we're going to share. And we'll talk more about, what our new number, is going to have to look like. But so that would happen then. Then May 9th would be town presentations, department presentations. And deliberations would happen on May 13th. And then May 18th, they would post the budget for comments to the public. May 27th would be then the mill rate that would be set at the end of the month there, May 27th. So that's a high-level preliminary overview of what was discussed, this morning. Tim, I don't know, or Mariana, if you have anything you want to, add to that, but more to come, that's for sure.
Yeah. And just then looking at our schedule, we have an FFO meeting that's scheduled for this Thursday.
Yes.
And with Jeff and I are thinking that we probably, and contingent on how that meeting goes, we probably want to do another FFO meeting the following week, date to be determined. We have a board meeting scheduled for April 27th. That's our next regularly scheduled meeting. I think we definitely need to meet in April 21st or 22nd. That's a Monday or Tuesday. Maybe if people can make that Tuesday work, that probably would be best. Because I think the FFO needs to do their thing. Jeff and the administrative team need to pull their stuff together. And then I think the full board needs to see scenarios and recommendations or things at least once, and then again before we go to the Board of Finance with the information. So that's kind of based upon our quick look at the meetings and everything. That's kind of looks like what the schedule's going to come out as.
And as this evolves, we will push more information out this Friday in the update, and then when the dates get kind of set, as well. Jamie's got her.
Yep.
I lost you. I was trying to write, but you were talking too quick. So the May 13th was deliberations. What came after the 13th?
May 18th would be after the deliberations happen. The Board of Finance would post the budget out there to the community for comments. So there'd be written comments.
Is that the 18th? That's the budget that they're going to approve?
That I think at that point is, I don't know, Tim, did we get a sense that that's going to be the recommended budget?
It's equivalent to the town meeting.
Yeah.
So where we would have it in the high school auditorium, this would basically, they would come on, Camille most likely would do a presentation on the budget. Here it is, and then all that information would be posted for people to look at, and the public would be able to make written comment on the website, I guess, that goes directly to the Board of Finance. And it's just like the town meeting. They would, I suppose if there's an answer, they would be able to provide something. But in general, there won't be a back and forth dialogue. It'll be just the comments. And then on the May 27th, they will have another meeting, a video meeting, where they basically will finalize and set the mill rate.
So my question is I don't know if you know the answer, on the website, the town website, are they going to have a spot to make a comment?
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
They're going to have some kind of an email system set up?
Exactly. Yep. And then
because I know now it's impossible to find their email addresses.
Yeah, it's supposed to be people could submit up 300 to 500 word response or point on the budget and send it, and then they hope to read them, or if they get too many of them, then they would kind of consolidate into messaging as to okay, what we got.
All right, thank you.
So stay tuned. We'll once we get a cleaner version of all of that, and Camille still, that's just all preliminary. She needs to talk with the Board of Finance members, and they'll kind of figure that out Wednesday night.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That's all I had, and that was quite a bit of the work of today and some of last week. So, and just everybody knows with April vacation, I did get a few emails back, from some parents that were upset. Why are we doing this, etc. I explained a lot of the rationale. And, that was it though. Everything else was quiet. So I think, for having, I think it was like 6 emails I got out of, 2,700 parents or families, I think we made the right choice. So that's my report.
Okay. Amy, anything more to add? Right there?
No, I think my text app is officially working from home now. And so they continue to come in. We have central office set up as a hub should devices be needed. We're meeting parents or students in the driveway of central office to distribute device if needed. We had a couple paraprofessionals who we had to give devices to set them up for some PD opportunities. And we're just keeping a close eye, even on the survey results. I can already tell you, we reach out to parents very quickly. Should they say that they don't have Wi-Fi or they don't have devices, it is a human-to-human phone call at this point, so that we make sure that we're having a nice conversation with families and making sure they feel supported. So we're feeling pretty good about what our families have as far as access and things of that nature. We are brainstorming, as I noted in the weekly update, thinking about next year's budget. This has definitely put an interesting, I don't know if I want to say bump in the road. I don't know how I want to classify it, but an interesting turn with the potential rollout for technology as we think about it next year. And maybe just added a couple lens of perspective, if you will, as the situation evolves. And so we're continuing to talk about that. And really just continuing to keep it positive and keep it supportive. So, like I say to parents and staff, I'm always a question. We're trying the best that we can. So anyway, if you need clarity on anything as a board, just let me know. We're happy to provide it with any information we have. So again, thank you all for your ongoing support out there in the community. It's appreciated.
Good, very good. Mariana, anything else to add?
Nope, I think everyone covered it. Yep.
Okay. So on committee reports, the FFO committee did meet. And Eric, you want to share with the board kind of what you guys were chatted about?
Yeah, so there are really two agenda items. The first one was the current year budget. The next one was the next year budget. Pretty obvious. So for the current year budget, we still need more work. And what we're trying to figure out is what's the impact of all of this on our budget. There are some, there are things that we're going to find some savings on. There might be some things that we have to invest in. So we're trying to figure out how this is all going to play out and where it will end up, at the end of this year, under a couple scenarios, if we go back to school or if we don't go back to school. But we need to sort out kind of what the number is going to look like. We're probably going to be under budget for the year, but is it a little bit or is it a lot? So that's what we're just trying to figure out, going line item by line item. So we spend a lot of time, and Mariana is doing a lot of work to try to ferret out each of the line items. To give you an example, like what happens to utilities, all the different utilities, and how much do you save? Well, we still have some heating on because there's custodians in the building. So how much do we save or so? So those are the type of things that we're trying to understand for this year so we can figure out, where we think we'll end. And then for next year's budget, we just started having some conversations about different scenarios because we just, we have no idea where we're going to be at this point. And maybe, if we start getting at least some indication from Mark and Camille about how this could end up, we can get some guidance to where we're going. So we're hoping to just at least maybe put some scenarios together that lay out the different options that we may have as we go forward, depending on what happens as we get more information from Camille and Mark about the expectations for mill rates. So spent a lot of time on both of those, but we don't really have answers yet, but it's more work to go. I know Kate, Tim, and John, you were all three there. Anything else to add? Okay.
I don't think so.
Any questions?
Good. Okay. Mariana, you're doing a fantastic job too. I mean, providing all the level of detail for the committee's assessment of where we are with this year's budget, and then the tough job of trying to figure out what's going to happen, what might happen next year. So really, really good. Very helpful.
And just so everybody knows too, Mariana and all actually all the directors we're trying to make sure we capture every COVID expense, so we can join forces with the town and request reimbursement if at all possible. I'm not sure what we'll go through, but Mariana's got a spreadsheet running of all of those expenses as they come forth. So that'll be helpful. We'll see where we're at when this is all over with.
Okay. Good. All right. Let's see. This brings us to the last thing is board comments or future agenda topics. Jamie?
So I have two board comments. One, I'm sure we're probably going to have to throw a policy meeting in here sometime. If we keep going the way we're going, we're going to have to throw in a couple policies in here. But two, I just want to thank you guys, your whole central office staff and all your teachers. They've been doing an awesome job. And I'm sure they don't have the best conditions either. And they have stress and they have families and they have all sorts of stuff they're dealing with. And they are still doing an awesome job. So thank you to all of you.
Thanks, Jamie. We'll pass that on too, because the staff are, it has been very trying. It's just a flipped world for everybody.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, it's just
But
nuts.
Scott, can you also send that out to all your teachers too?
That's great. That's great.
Thanks.
Jamie, I went on Sunday. I walked over to the backyard of Flanders School.
Oh, did you get over there? It looks beautiful.
Amazed to see what's there. And if anybody has a chance or wants to get out for some fresh air and take a walk, the Miracle League asphalt and
it looks gorgeous.
Structure is put in place. I guess the asphalt has to cure for
30 days.
30 days, and then they can put on the final rubberized coat stuff.
I think not having to stop for testing helped us get it done faster.
It really looks
It
nice.
did.
It really looks nice.
It looks great over there.
Yeah. So good. Anybody else? Any other comments? Barry? Oh, you gotta hit that. Yeah.
Okay,
there you
got it, got it. My screen is hard to find that mute button. And two quick things. Feedback I got from a couple of parents is then when the missives, the communiques come up from the central office, there's a lot of times a reference, kind of like the bottom line thing is the three watchwords are flexibility, respect, and safety. The question's been is like, where's learning? So it's just a feedback to you that maybe when the communications come out and to add to those three words something about learning, that's a focus or a goal or an objective that we have, as the board, flexibility, safety, and learning. The second was a question that came to my mind during this is the interplay, and this might be something for future discussion, but the interplay between board discussions and board actions. Just as a specific example, we've got a lot of range. We had a discussion earlier today about whether or not we open the Guardian option for high school students. And we had lots of back and forth on that, but I'm not clear about where that's going to go. I mean, did we just kind of have a discussion and it never ends in an action, or is there a way that ends in action, or do we, if we feel we have some belief in that, is there a way that as a board we can prompt some action on that? I mean, so what is the interplay between discussion and action?
So what you want to say then, Barry, is that you would like to have that particular item back for discussion and possible action at our next meeting, and that would give the administration. That would give the administration time to prepare, to consider, and you got the survey. That results that are all coming in. And so that would be that's what you want to do. So
okay.
you want to, and we can put that on as an agenda item for the next meeting, which would be April 20th, I guess, or 21st.
Okay, we can do that. It's the only frustrating thing about it is that we've got a couple of weeks between that, and that's such an easy thing to get done. But if that's how we do it, that's how we do it.
I mean, that would be it, unless Jeff,
Well, yeah, I think we need to discuss that further because it was, again, I'll be kind of blunt. It was never our intention to put that in place for a high school. So I'm just going to put that out there, as the statement. Well, we will relook at it and rethink it. Definitely in favor of for students with IEPs, definitely in favor for students with 504s, maybe even students that, are struggling, but I'm still hesitant for, the entire high school population based off of things we talked about at the last meeting too, and everything we've kind of seen, but we'll let us talk about it a little bit more. And with vacation coming up next week, for everyone, I think it's a good item we can bring forward on the 21st, 22nd.
Okay, good. Anything else, Barry?
Nope.
Okay, right, thanks. Anybody else? Everybody else okay? Good. Okay, well, with that, we have no need for an executive session, so,
I like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
okay.
I'll second.
All right, we got a second. Anybody want to say favor? Aye? You all say
Aye.
aye. Okay, we are adjourned.